Thanks very much. Thank you for inviting me along this afternoon. I'm really pleased to be here at this fantastic event, bringing the community together in these fantastic facilities at the university. I can see you've had a really interesting programme this afternoon with some really interesting speakers, a number of whom are known to me already, so I can see you've got a high quality bill on today, which is really good. I'm the Police and Crime Commissioner for the Cleveland area, so I'm responsible for policing and community safety in Cleveland, and I see it as really important, a really important part of that. Not just that we focus on policing, but we focus on the wider safety of the community. That's really important. People, particularly very young people, to adopt all the right attitudes in terms of how we move forward. I work with a whole range of different communities and different community organisations to try and promote and encourage tolerance, and I do that through various different ways. We have recruited some specialist employees to do some of that work, so we have a hate crime investigator, 2 hate crime investigators who've got over 200 charges for people against hate crime in the last year. We've got early intervention coordinators who work with young people and families who are in difficulty. We've got an asylum seeker and refugee coordinator who works with those people who are fleeing persecution from other countries and have come here, and they've been doing some really good work. I've also done we've done quite a wide-ranging training programme for our staff called Everyone Matters, which is all about equality, diversity and human rights. I've set up an anti-trafficking and slavery network in Cleveland to again bring together organisations who will support people who are victims of trafficking and slavery, and that's been meeting earlier today. I've got a strategic hate crime group which brings partners together, so we look at preventing hate crime, we look at tackling it, we're looking at bringing prosecutions against people who are committing hate crime. We have independent advisory groups in each of the 4 boroughs in Cleveland who act as a constructive challenge to the police and give advice and support and ideas as to how we can better police the Cleveland area. I've done a lot of work around supporting organisations committed to tackling honour-based violence and forced marriage and female genital mutilation as well. I work with Show Racism the Red Card, who work in schools across the Cleveland area. In the last year, Show Racism the Red Card has worked in 12 different primary schools across Cleveland. They've spoken to nearly 1,300 children, and over the next few weeks they're going to be working with another 7 schools, and will work with another 500 children in that. I was at the Riverside Stadium yesterday. The football club are very supportive of Show Racism the Red Card. And I'm also involved in a lot of community events. I support the Nailer every year, and I'm sure we all support the Nailer as a great celebration of multiculturalism. I support diversity days in each of the boroughs, as well as the E-Fusion events in Stockton. And last summer we helped to organise a Junior Football World Cup, which brought together primary schools. Each primary school picked a World Cup team, and we had a really great World Cup tournament. It's about using sport as a means of bringing people together. So I'm really pleased to be here. Thank you for inviting me along. I'm a really important partner for you in terms of the work that you're doing going forward in terms of promoting and assisting your community. And if I can help in that way, I'm really too happy to. So thank you very much.
Right, so my name is Martina Attil. I'm a first-year research student at University of the Arts London, London College of Communication. My research is about looking back at film culture, that British film culture, and seeing what can be retrieved to be useful in the future. A term I coined to frame that research is African descent. It's a term that sounds like African descent, but also is a combination of Africa and candescence, which means light. And the hope of that term is that it underpins a joy and celebration of African heritage and culture, not looking back retrospectively, but very much taking advantage of the contemporary opportunities we have in our 3rd and 4th generation young people of African heritage. So I'd really like to build on the concepts that Dr. Kendi presented us with, beauty, love, accountability, courage and knowledge. And each speaker will be invited to speak for about 5 minutes from their expertise, and then maybe we can open it up to questions from the audience. But just to maintain some coherence, I try to coerce people into choosing a concept they wanted to speak from, but I leave that open to you to do that. So, Glenn, if you would start us off, please. Please say who you are and say something about the organisation that you represent.
Okay. I have a rather loud voice, I don't know if you...
No, use it.
Okay. As I said, my name is Glenroy Watson. I'm representing the organisation called Global African Congress. This organisation was created after our experience at the UN World Conference Against Racism. Our organization's primary role is a campaign for reparation and repatriation because of enslavement and colonialism. So we're very clear that it isn't a divide Diasporian campaign of any sort. It involved all of our people. And when I saw the title of this event, I found it quite intriguing, because there have been a Commonwealth for Africa. It was called the Liberation Struggle. We were together and we were marching on the basis of Africans' need for liberation. And it wasn't, again, an issue only for the continent. It was an issue that involved Africa in all its involvement. The other thing that I want to put on the table here is the fact that which Africa are we talking about? Africa is currently divided in various regions, north, south, east and central, and we have, and the west, and we have the sixth region, which the African Union has decided incorporate all Africans, wherever they are in the globe. So when people talk about a Commonwealth for Africa, I hope the knowledge will be that this is an Africa that involves all Africans, wherever we are. But I think an Africa for a Commonwealth has to address the issues that the Commonwealth and the leaders of the Commonwealth are always fascinated by the picture when it comes around again with the last delegation of the Commonwealth getting together. And you will see some very uncomfortable people in the background behind the Queen. Yeah? And it's good that it's been captured, because you will see someone, especially the Jamaican Prime Minister, who was dealing at the time with the so-called Windrush scandal. Now, I don't like that terminology, because it tends to suggest that we'd all arrive on a boat and that's all it's about. When many of our people came here of their own volition, did not come on that boat, did not come with assistance. They came because they wanted to help build a country, get work, because they knew the Commonwealth would not be considered, while Britain after the war would be the prime rebuilding structure. So they wanted to be part of that. So I welcome the idea that we should have a debate around Africa relation with the Commonwealth. But we need to recognize all aspects of Africans' involvement. It's not a continental issue. It's a statement about our people wherever they are. And within the Commonwealth, we have to debate the issue of the history of the Commonwealth and the enslavement of our people. And what we gained in the UN is that enslavement and colonialism were crimes against humanity. And those of you who know legal process statute, that statute remains until justice has been achieved. So we have a responsibility because of that achievement. So that is the role of our organization, and we welcome the discussion around a Commonwealth for Africa, because we believe, with the knowledge that African people have of the history of what has gone on, we will be able to make that contribution. And when my sister opened up and said, you know, there's a problem, because do we really want to celebrate the fact that we were colonized? Well, we're not celebrating it, we're acknowledging it, and we're saying these are some of the things that were done during that time that need correcting. If we are frightened and lack the courage to face up and front that up, I think we will continue the same way, where the leadership of the Commonwealth apparently is some sort of inherited process, where the Queen can say, well, I'm going to retire soon, so I'll slip Charles in. You know? She won't let him have the crown, but she'll give him the little job. So I hope that when we have that debate, we talk about what the Commonwealth actually means to Africa. We need to know that our role within it ought to be more than just some sort of sideshow. It is not just about the UK's role within that. So I'll take any question and I'll respond to that. Thank you. Okay.
And we have Councillor who's arrived, and Beckwith is here as well. I invite you to the front. Thank you very much. And let's remind ourselves of the title of this session. The title of this panel is State of African Economic Base in the United Kingdom. So Glenroy has asked us, which Africa are we speaking about? Because there's a very complex African continent, and there's an equally complex African diaspora. So let's keep that in mind. So can we move on then, please, to our next speaker who's going to come down the line, and we're going to ask Shango Baku to introduce himself and the organisation he represents. And
yes, it's a pleasure to be here. After a very adventurous journey from London, had to go to Darlington and track back to Middlesbrough, etc., etc. I represent the International Decade for People of African Descent in its UK coalition. The United Nations dedicated a year, 2011, to people of African descent because of what has been said today so forcefully. We know that we have suffered in the past, suffered dreadfully, and the United Nations, being a point of contact with all of humanity, realized that 2011 was not enough to repair the damage that was done to African people of African descent. Therefore, it set up a decade, which began in 2015. It ends in 2024. So we are in the middle of it right now. And the IDPAD Coalition UK seeks to bring together African-led individuals and organizations to deal with this situation, this window of opportunity that we have to redress the grievances that apply to our state in every country on earth. It's a United Nations mandate. Of course, when Britain was asked to support this mandate, they said, we are already doing enough for those citizens of African descent in our midst. And we challenged that statement, very much so, because there are grievances that run deep in our society today, here in the UK, that need redress. And we have to wake up to that fact and to use this window of opportunity to challenge state institutions, legal processes, situations of overrepresentation in prisons, in mental institutions, and all the other evils that beset particularly people of African descent in this country. And in proclaiming the decade, the international community, not just the heads of state, the UN is made up of communities of people. So we have the right to speak to this decade and to do what we can, what we see fit during this decade, so that at the end of it, we are far better off than at the beginning of it. Recognizing that people of African descent represent a distinct group whose human rights must be promoted and protected. Around 200 million people identify themselves as being of African descent, living in the Americas. Many millions more live in other parts of the world outside of the African continent. I am obviously, visibly, from a movement that celebrates Africanness without apology. And it is interesting that UNESCO, another branch of the UN, has acknowledged reggae as a protected cultural heritage. This was last year, and added it to its list of over 300 practices and expressions of intangible cultural heritage of humanity, because it enables an evolving international discourse on issues of injustice, resistance, love, and humanity. I think that's enough that I should say for the moment. Thank you very much. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, Shango is steeped in the arts, and we had Laura, Director of MEMA, open up this evening talking about the value of the arts in terms of bringing us together and making cultural advancements. So it'd be very interesting to hear from the audience if there are other people working in the arts and how maybe this discussion feeds into your work. It wasn't very long ago that Commonwealth Day used to be celebrated with bunting and dancing and street parties by the English people who held the actual day very dear. They celebrated it, wholeheartedly as a very special day. Clearly things have changed politically, so it'd be interested to hear how people who are from Middlesbrough, who have English heritage, who maybe have family who remembers Commonwealth Day, remembers how the Empire was celebrated in this country, could maybe contribute to their memories of that time, so we can really see how far we've come now, where we're now to a point of critical awareness of what Commonwealth might mean. So on that, I'd like to introduce Councillor Alma Helawi, thank you, who has a very strong sense of values and human rights as they apply to people not only within the borough, within the town, but also, I suppose, more widely. So can I pass you over, pass the mic on to you to introduce yourself and what you care about? Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. How wonderful it is to be here tonight. I apologise already for being a bit late. I've just come from Middlesbrough Council Chamber, from a council meeting where I spoke indeed about human rights just briefly right now. Interestingly, I'm called Alma Helawi. My name is an African name. My husband is from North Africa, from Algeria, and half of my family is therefore Black African. So I feel partly African myself, and I'm very honoured to be part of a diverse family and a diverse community. As a councillor, I represent a part of the town called Newport, councillor for Newport Ward, which must be one of the most diverse communities in the entire town. In the local Newport school, where I am one of the governors, I think we have over 50 languages spoken. So I'm very passionate to create harmony, peace, understanding, justice, fair play, inclusion, expressions of every type of kindness so that we all recognise each other's humanity and dignity. Anecdotally, sometimes you wonder how come you have the values that you have, especially when confronted with people who have negative values, racist values, sexist values. And I think back to how come we weren't ever entitled to think like that in my household. And then I remember what my dad always used to drum into us. And he was extremely proud of his 2 daughters, and we knew we were highly valued and treasured by him. And he used to say to us, when we were little, you are the best people in the world. You two, my daughters, you are the very best. Nobody's better than you. He used to say, not even the Queen, because she was much more revered in those days. Not even anybody. You are the best. And we were going, oh, yes, marvellous, the best. And then he used to, but remember one thing. You are no better than anyone else in the entire world. You are no better, though you are the best. And I think that radically and fundamentally, my dad's adage rests deeply in my bones, that in all humility, I always think of myself as being equal to everyone else. Different, but equal as a human being. And therefore my human rights passion springs, I think, from my dad's inculcation of don't ever think you're better than anyone else. Of course, you're not entitled to think that in any level. You might have more privileges, you might have more benefits, you have a lot of love, but you're no better. Interestingly, in terms now of community cohesion from Africa, and actually in my ward we have representation from many areas of the world, we have a dance event in the town hall where 13 different cultures are coming to the town hall tomorrow to dance their different regions' dances. I'm so excited to be welcoming everyone to the town hall. We've got people from different parts of Africa, from China, children from all over, dressed in their traditional costumes or not, but sharing with us their culture, their music, their dance. And in terms of the music, I'm a very aficionado of reggae, and I always have been. I think it was part of my era. I'm that old when Bob Marley and all of that was, you know, just at my era, yes. So I love all types of music and especially reggae. And so I was interested to think that it's now being a part of a protected cultural heritage. It's fantastic that that expression of humanity is recognised to that extent. That is fantastic. We also have just heard in the council chamber from one of the councillors who represents Tees Valley Arts. It's an organisation which is across the towns of the Tees Valley, that Middlesbrough is being given recognition for its value of the arts. The mayor's being given a title of Champion of the Arts of the Tees Valley. So we are an artistic community here in Middlesbrough that welcomes and recognises all types of arts, cultures, music, song, dance, whatever. We are an artistic community that want to share and enjoy art from all over the world. I definitely want to support and know how we can support best the languages and cultures, especially of minority groups. I am actually a linguist. I speak English and French and Spanish, so language is part of what I love, believe in. And sometimes I worry that people don't continue to teach their children the languages that they might know. And we are in danger across the world of languages being lost. Some minority languages are going to, well, they are dying out as we speak because they're not being developed and continued. So every time I meet with someone from a different cultural heritage, I say, are you teaching some other language to your family? Are you bringing up the children to be bilingual or even trilingual? Because I think this is a privilege and a pleasure they can have and enjoy throughout their lives. Last week, there's so many things happened, was International Women's Day. And I addressed a group of 150, I think, in the town hall, of women from all over the world. Then I went and addressed another group in Newport Hub. I don't know how many nationalities of women were in that hub that day, but we had a wonderful time, and we did belly dancing actually. That was the preferred dance of that particular day. And it was wonderful to see how harmoniously the women can gel together, enjoy. I know some people they're part of the community, how they could gel, dance together, share lunch together, have a cookery demonstration of how to make chocolate pancakes with bananas, which was the actual choice food for the day. So it fills me with hope to think that we can achieve things. I actually went on Thursday, was it yesterday, Thursday? The week has so many events, doesn't it? Yesterday I went to a part of an Asian women's group, and they're going to be sharing a game of bingo, apparently, bingo sessions, would you believe, with a local other women's group. These Asian women had never heard of bingo or knew anything about how to play. We found ourselves explaining it. So it's just different ways, that's one example of ways people can share, integrate, enjoy their time together. I'm a passionate believer in human rights. I hope I fight against injustice every day. I hope I share love and humanity across the world, everywhere, every day in the street with everyone I meet. I would be humbled to think I might do. So, thank you.
So in 1988 I made a film called Dreaming Rivers, and the main protagonist was played by an actress called Corinne Skinner-Carter. And in the film, the main character talks about the immigrant experience and the idea of streets paved with gold in this country. Streets paved with gold, a metaphor for the opportunities that this country offers. And let's remind ourselves about the panel topic, which is State of African Economic Base in the United Kingdom. And our next speaker, Agbekwe Adefunke, maybe you can tell us where the gold is.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry for being late. I've been traveling and also at work. So I haven't really prepared anything much, but all I'll say is that, have I introduced myself? Okay. I'm Funke Agbekwe. I would say I'm very passionate about, getting involved in the community. I think Africans, we've got a lot to offer, and we've got the potentials. We do have the abilities, the capabilities. We have the skills that we can use to shape our communities. And hence, and that kind of really gets me really motivated and to get involved in the Black Asian minority and ethnic, group. And I would say it's good, and I think everyone should follow in and join. We need to add values to our societies. We cannot do nothing and expect something to happen. And one thing that I do believe is that you can sit around and complain, moan about things, and talk in your own lower level or whatever level you might find yourself. But you cannot point fingers if you yourself, you don't do nothing. And I think doing something and contributing from our own little ways can make a big difference. That's why they say, a little bit of drop of water can make an ocean. And you might be thinking, I don't have an idea. Who say, no, I don't have an idea? You do have an idea. I do have an idea. And by the time we all come together, bringing our ideas together, bring our values together, just like we were hearing, sharing our cultures, making our voice heard, it can go a long way. A lot of time I've seen that when you kind of come out and say something, people realize that yes, you're there, you know what you're doing, you have drives, you have visions, and you have goals. So yeah, Africans, we have to come out of our let's not get bored or get carried away with busy. Everybody's busy in their own way. You can get busy doing everything else you want to do, but I think the importance of getting involved in your community cannot be overemphasized. So on that note, I'm leaving everybody to just be motivated. Let's carry on. Let's do what we can do within ourselves. There's no amount of effort that is too small, and there's no amount of effort that is big. We just have to keep, doing our best. You can never get to a point and say, well, I'm done enough, I've achieved, I cannot do more. We just have to keep on doing our best. All the best.
Thank you very much to our panelists. Now, is anybody in the audience who has a question immediately that they want to ask any of the panelists? Okay, so while you're having a think, again, I'll come back to the title, African Economic Base. Very often in the Caribbean community, we compare ourselves to other cultures who seem to be much more financially secure, that seem to have models of financial cooperation that puts our own models to shame. A joke is that if a Caribbean person opened a bank, Caribbean people put £1 in the bank and check every day to make sure that pound is still there. So I'm wondering if there's expertise in the room who is aware of our models of economic cooperation on the African continent or in the diaspora that we could actually use to organise ourselves to take advantage of the opportunities that Dr. Kendi said that are available to us. It's not a pity party, but I think that people need to be more aware of how to organise and cooperate economically to further our collective and individual aspirations. I think one of the most successful models has probably been the church in this country. Churches tend to grow through their congregations who commit to the growth of not only spiritual wealth, but also to material wealth. We have the pastor who is the leader of the church. Is he still here?
No, he's gone.
Has he gone? His wife's gone. Is there another church leader in the room who could maybe comment?
Yes.
Yes. If you wouldn't mind just sharing with us your experience of financial economic cooperation and how that's helped to build your church, would that be possible? Come to the front. Oh yes, going to go camera. If you wouldn't mind coming to the front, then we can capture you on the camera for posterity. and prosperity. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening now. So, well, actually, to be quite honest with you, the way the church is now, I would suggest that the church may still need some reconstruction when it comes to, helping individuals to be able to grow up economically. Because you find out that most often when we talk about African church, it's an organization that is being owned by, you say it's owned by somebody, and then they give you the instruction of how to do it. So, that's you cannot say that will help individual to build up something economically, except maybe we start gathering people and start, incorporating another ideas into them. That even when you are doing that, coming together, praying, developing yourself spiritually, you still have to think of what to do, to build up yourself economically. And because we Africans, we have this orientation of just working, 9 to 5, not we still need to look into that area also. And another issue is the problem of trust, just as you rightly said, that when we put £1 in a bank, we want to be sure that £1 is still there. And those who are in business, they take risk They don't bother whether that's £1 received there or whatever. They want to think of, is it better for me to leave my millions in the bank account, keeping it there, making sure that it's still there, or thinking of what I can invest, that money into. And to be quite honest with you, Africans, we still have that mistrust. We don't trust ourselves. I think Asians are doing better in that area. They come together, they can, have idea, contribute together and say, let's do this together. But as far as I'm concerned, we are yet to get there.
Yeah, just to say, I think the church has a valuable contribution to that. But historically, when Africans were first here after the war, we've seen the posters, no black, no dogs, no Irish, and the restriction for accommodation. What Africans had to do was to gather together and save in a partnership scenario where you provide money for one person to buy a property where others would join, and that is a very successful model of economical alteration, because they managed therefore to buy property and then they would still continue to save for the next person. That is being invigorated. There is an African credit union being worked on at the moment to ensure that those prospects are there for investment, because one of the things you said, I think it was you that said, there are other sources of financial assistance. That will be one, and it is a model that has been used before by the African community here. When we couldn't get accommodation, we couldn't get rental, we couldn't buy, and so on. So it had to be put to that use. Partner, I think it was called.
Partner.
Yeah, partner, where individual would throw a proportion of money.
Yeah, very nice say. So I think one of the things that's killing African enterprise is micro business and microfinance. So we think micro, we don't think big. So I start a hair salon. My friend down the road comes and says, I think she's making some money. I know what I'll do. I'll put a hair salon right next to her hair salon. Now we start fighting for the same clientele, and then we get into a price war. So I have to reduce my prices to compete with her because she's offering the very same service. So, and then of course it gets to a point where the business becomes unsustainable. So that micro business and that microfinance can be very expensive. Also when it comes to paying the loan. That is one of the things that's killing us. Now I think one of the ways we can grow it, perhaps to agree with what you two have said, is collaboration. So if I am a hairdresser, I know how to hair, somebody else knows how to straighten hair, somebody else knows how to deal with hair products. Why are we not coming together and having a really big establishment that offers an array of goods and services to a wider group of people? I can bring in a little bit of my investment, you bring in your investment, and together, that way we get around the whole finance thing. And we are bringing different experts under one roof. That's one way that we can do it. In Kenya, the women have something they call a merry-go-round. So a merry-go-round, so each person gives £50, and I think a lot of African people are aware of this. You give £50 and we give it to one person. That is essentially an interest-free loan. And they have several months to pay it back. Women have educated children, built houses and built businesses on that kind of model, which is perhaps a little bit akin to partner as well. So that's something else that we can take forward. There are opportunities out there. We just need to think outside the box. And I believe collaboration is where it's at.
Thank you so much. And I must say as well, there is a tradition of philanthropy as well in our communities, where it's not always about investing the money with the expectation of getting something back. Sometimes you can see a business or an individual really doing well in their concept. You can see the potential in their work, and you can actually give them money to help them. What you're saying about risk, you give them the money because you can see the strong potential in what they're doing, and you leave it to them, and you expect, I think maybe this comes from a Christian background, you'll get your share back at some point. Well, not maybe not in heaven, but maybe not that long, but on earth, eventually in kind, So philanthropy is something that can be encouraged. You can actually give money to somebody who seems to be doing well with an idea. I think there's no harm in doing that every now and again. But I want to go to the very troubled issue of, no matter how hard we work, no matter how much we collaborate, are we ever going to redeem the value of the wealth that was exploited and taken from the diaspora, from Africa, through the exploitation of the resources in Africa, the exploitation of labour in the Caribbean and the Americas? Are we ever going to recuperate any of that wealth, no matter how hard we work? What do we do with the troubled concept of reparation?
I think the starting point has to be that there is currently, at this very moment, that exploitation continuing, whatever form it takes. You know, it's very clear that Africa, the continent, is rich minerally. It's one of the richest continents, but our people are poor. So something is wrong. We have to ask the question, not why we are poor, but why others are rich. And I think that's has to be the starting point. For me, at the moment, there is a theft going on that we should say stop. You know, in the DRC, there are people being murdered on a daily basis, and yet the wealth and the material still comes out. So something's wrong. Reparation has many stages, including our self-repair and our self-worth and our knowledge and our thinking about ourselves. But I also think part of it must be we need an end to the continued theft. You know, I love when people talk about donation, where, is it today, is Red Nose Day?
Yes.
Yeah? So we have a situation where the continued process about assistance and donation is going on. But people don't acknowledge the fact that African people are the biggest donor of funds to Africa. Yeah? Because it's not seen as donation. We send money back to our family, etc., etc. And I, a number of others, are making sure, I'm sorry about Costa del Sol and whatever, I will holiday every year on the continent because I want to see my financial benefit being repatriated in that way. So really, at the end of the day, no measurement has been made of that. No measurement has been made of the amount of contribution Africans are making to Africa, you know, and to Europe. You know, and I put that in context about, as I started earlier on, about the liberation struggle. It's not clear about all the African nations that were helping each other, forming a form of Commonwealth, and all the African nations outside of the continent who were contributing to that liberation struggle. So as I said, the Commonwealth existed long, long before it was coined by somebody else. So, yeah, I think that we will win. We will get our repatriation. Our wealth will be repatriated. It may take time, but it will be, because at the end of the day, first thing is to stop what's going on in order that it could be adjusted.
Councillor, I'm glad you want to speak because I had you in mind next. So I'm just checking in the audience. Is there anybody with questions or requests for clarification? I'm going to start picking on people.
Television programme recently, and they were looking at the amount of investment coming from China into a lot of the African countries now. I'm not sure if anybody saw that, where there's a lot of Chinese companies that are setting up in a lot of the African countries, and I think the debate that the guy reporting was asking him was, you know, how is this going to benefit the African communities? Because yes, it's all well and good investing there, but they're going to employ African people in the businesses that they're set up. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think Councillor would next.
My answer would actually incorporate part of that. Thank you. I agree with my learned colleague here that yes, we definitely have to stop the exploitation. And if we take the example of the DRC or indeed China, it's going to be hard to envisage how we stop the exploitation, because behind the mechanism are massive multicultural capitalist organisations, either in China or the DRC or anywhere else, intent on making mega profits for a certain elite rich minority in the world, no matter where it is. And although I'd like to say stop tomorrow in the DRC, the exploitation of the mineral, for indeed is so important in the making of the technology such as mobile phones, so of course it's in the interest of the capitalist companies to let a civil war continue there, because if the country was able to get its own governance in a way that was appropriate, the country could indeed flourish with all of those rich minerals and resources that are there under its own ground. But it's not in the interest of a capitalist society to allow that country to flourish, because they can make more money by stealing the wealth from that country. So in terms of huge multinational and international capitalist structures, I think it's a bit daunting. I hate to be pessimistic, but how are we going to tackle these multinational thieves? And it's not only in terms of the wealth and the riches and the finance and the resources, it's in terms of democracy and people's voices and basic human rights. We're confronted by all of those complexities as well as the financial, but deeply linked with the financial complexity.
Can I add to that? I mean, I agree with you entirely, and to deal with the issue about China, I mean, it's difficult, I think, for a lot of people to recognize, as you've just said, that China is coming with a capitalist intention. However we want to coin that, we need to recognize that. However, we can make deal with capitalism because it has been there for a long time. So it's a matter of making the right deal to ensure that we don't get rip-off the next time round. So China is an opportunity if we actually make sure. With the issue about the continued theft of resource, you know, we have, the title of this is very crucial. It's where we are. We're here now, where the multinationals are operating. We have a unique opportunity to inform our people on the continent and other places who these multinationals are, and we should never forget the lessons of apartheid and the fight against apartheid and how we linked with workers and activities in South Africa. That technique is still valid and should still be employed now, where we challenge the behavior. There's a recent court case where, and again thinking it links up with Windrush, there was a recent case where a British multinational mining company had murdered a number of miners, I think in Zambia, and the witnesses could not come here to give evidence because they couldn't get a visa. They were coming for a court case. They were coming to give evidence, and yet that whole scenario of a visa was a restricted thing. So we need to engage all, let me say, capitalist aspiration and adventure on the continent in a way that actually recognize that they're there to try and exploit the resources of Africa. You know, I am very much a supporter of the struggle that Chinese people have gone to bring themselves to that situation, but we mustn't pretend that things doesn't change.
So it's interesting you mentioned risk and banking. I watched a talk by the CEO of EcoBank. For those who do not know, EcoBank is a transnational African bank. Some people think it is a Nigerian bank, but it is not a Nigerian bank. It is a transnational African bank. And interestingly, some people will want to will say, I cannot bank with EcoBank. It is African, I don't trust it. Then go take their money where? To Barclays, which was built on proceeds of what? Slavery. Yes, and apartheid and all of that, which is a bit, you know, it drives me a bit mad. But hey ho. But EcoBank, I loved what he said. He said, as Africans, we are the ones who are going to take Africa from where it is right now and bring it where take it where we want it to go. So what EcoBank does, EcoBank goes and invests in war-torn countries. You know why? They say there is no country on earth that fights forever. The fighting must stop at some point or other, and when they do, we'll be the first ones there. And they have grown their model, and they are really competing against foreign banks. So that's something that we can borrow from. So you said, yes, Africa, there's a lot that we see in the news that makes us feel like Africa is a basket case, that there is no hope. But I'll have you know there is a lot of amazing things that are happening in Africa. People are not just sitting down thinking, oh, you know, we're just going to be here and let China come and take everything. Now, don't get me wrong. It is happening, that capitalistic way where exploitation, it is happening. I went to Nairobi, I went to Kenya just a couple of months ago, and I was shocked to see that our signs now, road signs, signs to everywhere, are in English, Swahili, and Chinese. My question is, if we went to China, would they bother changing their signs to Swahili? No. So I'm happy that we've got Chinese there, that's amazing. But we need to not lose ourselves in the process.
Okay, so Ola's given me he gave me the 2-minute sign 3 minutes ago. So we're going to bring this to a close, but Shaku's going to say something first.
Yes. The point has been made, and it is interesting that we have systems that are indigenous, whether you call it merry-go-round. In Trinidad we call it susu. In Jamaica we call it partner. We are our own liberators, and unless we take agency for our future, either by, as you say, Brother Benroy, informing our cohorts or partners in Africa of what is going on, because sometimes they are blinkered by being cut off from the rest of the world. They are not seeing the capitalist demons that are ripping us off still today. One way or another, we have to be connected, a connected Commonwealth, not of leaders, but of people, grassroots movements, people on the ground talking to each other about the real problems that we face and finding real solutions to them. We have always done that as an African people, and we must continue to do that if we are to liberate ourselves and not depend on others.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Shango, for saying that. So I'm going to give the last word to you, so I'm just going to finish. So I just want to say thank you, Shango, because that's in my mind. Sometimes the bigger politics seems to be too big for individuals to cope with, but I think, Council, what you were saying about your father just making you know that you were loved and treasured just builds up so much confidence. And I think that perhaps the black struggle and the black economic struggle in this country has been one where people have cared enough to start liberation movements, whether it's liberation in creating housing, having house parties to raise money to buy houses. I think there's a culture of caring which is liberating. So in this time of globalization, where it's easy to lose sight of individuals, I think to have the capacity to care on a local grassroots level to make somebody feel like the MP was saying earlier in the day, welcome, extending some kindness is a starting point on a local level. I think that's an active liberation in itself. Okay, so I'm going to pass you over. Final. You see, Ola, it's not me, there's two hands. There's two hands.
It's giving you a stern look.
I will take your time, but I think just like he has said, yes, I think what we need to do is that we need to contribute from our side. Africa is great. Africa, is a great continent. We have everything that we can become greater. But it all starts from you and I. So if we start to do our bits from our little way, we will begin to see that the leaders they will begin to see that they are living different set of people. And they will not have any choice than to do something different. I'm not saying it's going to happen overnight. We don't seem to have system in our, African things really seems to be all over. But we will get there, but we don't know when. But how soon or how quick? Well, I think my own intake on this is from our own little way, let's shape our world. Just like as we are saying, if we develop more trust, if we can do more things, we can be more entrepreneurs among ourselves. Just like what Doctor was saying earlier. You come up with your different ideas. We are not competing. We are doing things together. And we are, you bring your skills, I bring my skills. We come with ideas, we come with different views, and we have one, we begin to develop ourselves to have more unity. I think we can do more by doing that. But at this moment, I think everybody's like, everybody's after their own interest. I want to enrich my pockets, I want to do this. And we don't even promote our own values enough. And that's why, Chinese is of no disregard to them, but it's just because they've worked hard over a long time. We need to get there, and we will.
Just, knowledge is good, but when we don't apply the knowledge that we have, it doesn't make any sense. So I would say I'm happy with the partnership housing that he has just suggested. And I want to suggest that we should not just leave it there. Let there be some group of people that will, maybe start to work on that and start to introduce it to people. And that's how whatever we have come to do here, we can be able to achieve and be able to confirm that, on so date we attended this program and this is what came out from it. Without that application, I'm sorry, we'll just be gathering and talking all this grammar, and it's not going to happen. That's what I have to say.
Well, thankfully, the councillor is here. So anybody who wants to form a delegation and bring some points forward to the councillor. And we also had an MP earlier today, so I'm sure there's going to be voices who can join the dots to make maybe some foundation that can be built on. Okay, thank you so much to our panellists. Can we have a round of applause for our panellists?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
Well, that was a wonderful session and I've learned a lot. It's really good to have people sit together and digest some of these things. And the thing I can say that I've learned is social entrepreneurship. Social entrepreneurship for our community. I wouldn't want to use the term black again because it looks like it sounds prejudiced. It sounds like it's not generally acceptable. But, social entrepreneurship, where those that are already established will form a backbone for the ones that are about to come in to establish their businesses, their entrepreneurial ideas. They will form a backbone for them to fall back to and give them the strength to serve. I think that's very key. Thank you. I want to call Gwen Bowman to give us a goodwill message representing the Chinese community. A round of applause.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Guantai Bowman, chairman of the Hollywood Chinese Association. Today I'm here, I think it's because the CEO of this Safe Women's organization invited me. It's Ola, and he is represent. I said everyone is represent their culture. Ola from the Nigeria, so I think he represents culture. From him, I can find out he is open-minded. He's very supportive. He helped my friend to go to court to become advocates to get more justice for my friend. So I'm very grateful to be here. I think to you, maybe you seldom see the Chinese speaking in this country. I think I also present part of a Chinese culture here. And our culture is a kind of tolerance and then very reserved. This reason, but we're very hardworking, but we like to share the happiness. We also don't fear to talk about money. Our New Year is like we say 恭喜发财. It means I wish you win the lottery. That's what we every day we say to everyone, because we know money is so important, and we believe the money can buy you happiness. We believe ourselves. We just don't believe people lie to you. The money can buy the happiness. Money can buy the happiness. This reason we talk about the enterprise. So how can we, now the Chinese government is talk about how to improve people's living standard. The whole country just want to crack down the corruption. The corruption just say, don't let the small people eating your food, you know, like big cake. The one person can eat all your cake. They can be greedy. You can only allow smell, you know. So that is wrong. So our government said we crack down the corruption and to bring the happiness to people. I think our why we are together, because we all want to be respected. We all want to be have a better life. Our life is limited on the earth, but universe is vast. So our life actually we are so tiny, but sometimes although we're tiny, we still want to achieve the perfectness. And so I also I talk about I like the African people, because not because you invite me here, it's because I really in your life. People invite me to the birthday, invite me to the wedding, and then I found out my African friend is very humorous, and then they also dressed up the hair, you know, made the hair beautiful. They are so stunning, you know. So this reason they sometimes I wish you to be proud to be yourself, proud to be your color. We class ourselves yellow, but when I was young, they say I'm like an African, you know, because my skin compared with Chinese is a little bit, you know, dark. So they call me African. So I think color is no meaning here. And I wish you proud of your culture, because you have produced Obama, you have produced Martin Luther King. We still working hard to fulfill Martin Luther King's dream, because his dream said, one day I wish our children will not be judged by their color, they only be judged by the competence, their excellence. This is something his meaning. Thank you so much indeed. Bye.
Thank you. Yeah, this other session we're going to have now, we would like to have one of our sisters to tell us what she's into. We'll start off by encouraging her and then setting up the platform for others to.
Please, a very, very big round of applause for Ola. Come on. For every single person who works behind the scenes. For our guest speaker all the way from Leeds, I'm from Bradford as well. Big shout out to Dr. Come on, round of applause for the MP who has already been, for the councillor, for Mima, for every single person, and more importantly, for yourself. Give yourself a round of applause. Because let's face it, the truth is, without you, there would not be any of this. Oh! And look, you put this together. Look over there from Teesside University. Let's give him a big hand as well. The truth is, without you, we will not be here. So we've heard a lot today. And in one 10-second gap, I want you to reflect. I'm giving you 10 seconds because they only gave me 2 minutes, so blame them. but this is part of what I do. I want you to reflect. They said something very powerful. Someone said it, lots of people have said it, so I don't know who to quote. But anyways, a dream written down. Children, can you guess? If you have a dream and you write it down with what's so important, you have to put something to that dream. They normally write it here. If you have a dream, you need to write it down with a date. Okay? If you write it down with a date, it becomes a goal. You say, oh, by the time, this time next year, 15th of March, 2020, I want to do this. And if you have a goal, you break it down into steps. That's a plan. And if you have a plan that you take action in, guess what? Ta-da! It makes your dream a reality. So it's not enough to just come and speak. Yes, I have 5 minutes, 2 minutes on the mic. But the most important thing is, what are we going to do with it? We heard about, you quoted someone about think, invest. Here I am. Last time you guys saw me, I created something for Christmas. This one is for everyone who has anyone in their heart that they love. I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm very creative, and I work with children. So there's so many ways we can link up. So if you want to sew or give or whatever, or support, manage, join our team. This is a heartboard. You just address it with the Sharpie from, 2, is it? What do you put on top? 2, yes. With love to my darling daughter, love mom and dad, right? Is that how you address it? I don't know. But anyways, I've got these and I'm selling them just today, £5.50. 10% of whatever you pay, I will donate to Save the Women, just as a goodwill gesture. Saying thank you to you as well. Another thing that I do is I have a charity for children. So I travel around the world, everywhere. I've been to America, Nigeria, where I'm from, Ghana. I live here in the United Kingdom. And we're passing on this legacy, building them to love themselves, like everybody has already said. Support one another. It doesn't matter your color or skin. I don't see color. I'm not black, like you said. Obviously, I'm not. I mean, my coat is. Do you know what I mean? But it's true. We are one. That's my message. You have something that I need. I have something that you need. Let's work together. So that's it. I know we have to clear out the room by 6. So that's it in a nutshell. Thank you once again for the opportunity. Thank you, all you beautiful people. Keep shining, keep loving, and buy one of these. I do not have plenty with me today. Thank you so much again. I'm wonderful. Sorry, I'll be set up over here.
All right, I would like to call Ola Neko now to give us the closing remark and also tell us about the Black, Asian, and minority ethnic community in Teesside.
Thank you very much. I'm highly honored to be here, and I would like to say thank you very much, in particular to Teesside University Marketing Team Department, because when I want to talk about this event, they are the ones I first contacted, and they said, don't worry, Ola, you've got Luke, who is going to be managing the event, planning everything, and it went fine. And also to everyone that came around, I must say thank you very much to the Chinese community, to the Asian community, to other black community, and to white community, everybody. We said, don't say about color, say about culture, say about yourself, the value you have in yourself. Thank you for that. With what you just asked me to do now is about Black, Asian, ethnic minority. You know Middlesbrough is diverse, it's the second in the Northeast, and we want to cherish that opportunity. So, like when as mentioned, I also work as an advocate for the Black, Asian, ethnic minority community. It's about speaking for the rights, about standing for the justice and for recognition, and also to stand for people's rights. You know, it is very difficult when you want to speak for people's rights because it's a difficult conversation. However, this environment is giving opportunity to listening and to hear. And thank God we've got our local councillors and we've got our member of parliament. They are also part of this system and they are supporting us with necessary support. So if you like to have anything to do with that, just email us through this event. You can follow us on Facebook, you can follow us on Twitter. And recently we have already formed a team called Teesside African and African Caribbean Community Network. It's going to be registered soon with the Student Union of Teesside here. And also, the basic of this is to network ourselves with local organizations. And I would like to say a big thank to Abby. She has been so supportive to our community all along the while. And lastly, if you look at this program, I think if you go to page 5 of it. Page 5 of it. Saved Woman aims to secure an African art and event space, a cultural hub for the African diaspora and friends of the African community, a place of love and a required attention. This is a kind of hub that we are trying to raise awareness, to raise funds for, so that you will see a place you come to, like they've mentioned, don't talk about your color, but talk about your culture. So we want to maintain that our culture, so that everybody will know, even the young children coming up, they will also embrace that culture and they will not be alienated from their community. So if you love to be part of that dream to come true, MIMA has been doing a great job. This one is just to complement. It could be side by side. If you leave MIMA, come to Africa Hub. If you leave Africa Hub, go to MIMA. It's about promoting the art and culture. So we've got our Saved Woman account details there, and the source code, the bank code is there, and we've got online donation as well. If you are type of people that so much love social media, you'll see the link to donate through the Just Giving page. Once again, thank you very much, and I really appreciate all our speakers. They came from London, from Bradford, from Leeds. This is about oneness, coming together, working together, and building this community together. Thank you very much, and I wish you safe journey.